And maybe chilly is the way to describe the relationship between Jaire Alexander and the Green Bay Packers. Rob Domofsky doing some work over the Valentine's Day weekend. And it's basically that there was frustration, which I guess is not breaking news. I think we all have eyeballs, and we could see that there was probably frustration between the Green Bay Packers and their cornerback. Part of it is how much money Jaire is getting. Part of it is how much Jaire played. Part of it is some of the behavior in the past that has been annoying or frustrating. But obviously, the Packers have a decision to make about Jaire. And what I said to you guys earlier this morning, it is really interesting to me that there hasn't been any definitive outcome here, that nobody has been able to say, yes, the Packers are moving on, or no, they're not going to move on, they're going to run this thing back. And just like, so there's a lot of mystery right now surrounding the Jaire Alexander thing. So, Chew, I'm not sure if you got to see the article, but what you have been vocal about Jaire Alexander over the last few years. What is your biggest frustration with the Packers cornerback?
The fact that he does not play unless he's 100%. And teams hate paying guys for when they don't play. I think Gabe, what did he play, 7 games this year?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
I mean, that's terrible. This is just a broken record. It's the same thing every year. And let's not forget, at the end of the previous season, Jaire and LaFleur supposedly had sat down, and we believe that LaFleur said, look, you get one more chance. We're fed up with you going out there and donning yourself a captain for this week and just doing stupid stuff like that. So my guess is right now they're trying to move him quietly with no takers. So I fully anticipate when the optimal time from the cap is to cut him, they will do that.
Yeah, just because, I mean, his base salary next year is $16.1 million. And that's something that somebody, if they traded for him, would have to absorb. With his inavailability, he's played 14 games the last 2 years. Nobody's going to want to trade for that. You're going to have to release him. Somebody will give him a chance, certainly next year, just not at that number.
Is there a bonus, Gabe? Is there any
$267,647 bonus. So significant for most people, insignificant in NFL dollars is the roster bonus. He's got a $700,000 workout bonus if he shows up to off-season activities. But usually, like, roster bonuses are the things that push that decision as early as possible. It's not a significant roster
And this
bonus.
is a shame because it's one of the draft picks that 𝘾𝙀𝘀 nailed. You know, he was an all-pro, hell of a player. But he's a problem. He's a problem. And like I said, teams do not want to pay players for sitting on the sideline, and that's what this guy does.
So right now it looks like it's Keyshawn Nixon, who obviously had campaigned to be the number one guy headlining that unit. You also have Eric Stokes. There's other obviously players that we have talked about here in the cornerback position. How do they go out and get? I just think it's hard to go find a Jaire Alexander. So like, is anyone who takes over that position going to be an automatic downgrade? Or Chew, in your mind, is availability that even if they're not as talented as Jaire, them being available is an upgrade automatically because they're on the field, you know, weekend in and weekend out?
Well, I think the first thing I have to do is really evaluate Stokes, you know. And my guess is there's not going to be a huge market for him. It's whether he wants to get a fresh start, whether he wants to come back. You know, because if you do lose Stokes, who's an okay player, he's nothing special. But then, I mean, do you roll the dice in the draft? Because the draft is a crapshoot. And do they draft the guy in the first round that can come in and play immediately? Because if not, you have to go out and get 2 guys in free agency, not huge money guys, but guys that are proven and guys that can play. Because the problem with the cornerback position is your D-line is so bad they don't create any pressure, so those guys are on an island that much longer.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Gabe, how would you like to see this shake out?
I think this is only going to shake out one way. They're going to release him. He will be released. They'll save the $6 million against the cap. So sometime in the next 2 weeks.
Do you think they're quietly shopping him now?
Yeah, probably.
To try to get something for him?
Yeah, but nobody, like I said, nobody's going to want to pay him 16, because that's the part that you would have to absorb, right? You're absorbing that $16.1 million, so that's what you would have to pay. I don't think anybody's going to want to pay that money up front, because he's been in the league long enough, that becomes guaranteed day one of him being on the active 53.
And then with the follow-up, then from a downgrade standpoint, it's a downgrade at the position?
Yeah, I mean, not having him, absolutely. Absolutely, it's a downgrade.
Oh, yeah.
But if he's only playing 7 games a year, you're playing without him anyway.
But the problem is this, and he's that type of personality. He will steer his way to Minnesota or Detroit or Chicago and probably play well, and then he's going to blame the Packers for everything. We were never on the same page. They didn't let me do what I wanted to do. I'm a bump and run guy. Blah, 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 blah. That's the problem. Because he's still, like Gabe said, still a really, really good corner. Just doesn't play.
Okay, so I hear what you're saying stylistically, but one of the criticisms of Jaire has been, at least lately, since the injuries have started to mount up, that he doesn't tackle. And I know there are going to be people out there who are like, have you watched cornerbacks in the league? Do you watch the NFL? I get it, but like there is a part of me that feels like Jaire is sort of existing right now on reputation alone.
Mm-hmm.
He was a second-team All-Pro in 2022, his last full healthy season. His last fully healthy season where he played 16 games, he was second-team All-Pro. The last 2 times he's been healthy, that's what he's been, second-team All-Pro. He is that good. Like, if you put him out there, doesn't tackle the way he used to. That was a shoulder injury that he suffered in 21 that kind of prevented him from stopping being that physical guy. He just hasn't been that same guy since then. But he's still really good in coverage. Like, we saw it again when he had the interception in the playoff game against Dallas a couple of years ago. Like, he's a guy that can be a disruptor in that defensive backfield. Personally, if he hasn't really been a malcontent the way he was at the end of last season, for the $6 million you save, I would bring him back and roll the dice, because I think he can be that good of a player if he stays healthy. But, I mean, what Rob is saying, I mean, Rob's not going to put something out there that isn't true. I mean, this points to me, this kind of, okay, signed, sealed, delivered, this guy's getting released.
The closest comparison I have to him, Jen, is Wayne Simmons. Right? Wayne Simmons didn't listen to Mike, was on his own program. He listened to Fritz, but that wasn't good enough for Mike. And I've heard it throughout the years. A lot of people say, and it's kind of true, if we had Wayne Simmons for Super Bowl 32, it might have been a different game. Might have been a different game, because Seth Joyner, who was a hell of a player back in his day, I mean, he was an all-pro, but he was like 33, 34 when he came to us, and it was done. So, and Mike just couldn't take it anymore, and that's why they shipped him off to Kansas City.
So just to be clear, here is what Rob 𝘃𝘃 is reporting on ESPN.com. There are strong indications Alexander's time with the Packers will end without him playing another down. Multiple team sources have privately expressed their frustration with Alexander's inability to stay healthy and or play through injuries. You'll notice there, Rob doesn't say frustration with his character, his behavior, his antics. He's not saying that. He's saying it is about, I think there were times, at least over the last year, that they thought he could go, that they thought he could be out there. And he just said, I can't. And when the medical staff might be green lighting you to play, and the player is red lighting it, and the team and the coaches are game planning with you in mind, I think that's when the frustration starts to mount and going, man, okay, but the medical staff said you could go. Like, we think that you're on the road to recovery. We think it's going to be a this many week injury, and I think that's probably what it's contributing to. But I do think it is interesting, the nuance there of Rob doesn't say, in addition to him designating himself a captain and going out there and us not seeing eye to eye on scheme. It's like his inability to stay healthy and or play through injuries.
So with that being said, Jen, do you think he could get blackballed like 𝘃𝘃? Because we all thought during training camp 𝘃𝘃 was going to hook on with another team, and there was crickets. There was nothing.
Yeah, I doubt that, Chew, because he at least played 7 games. Like, 𝘃𝘃 played once and then had the knee injury again. Like, he's had so many operations on that same knee. That's obviously what scared teams away. That they thought, I mean, how many times was it, like 2 or 3 seasons in a row? Okay, finally figured out what's wrong with Bakhtiari. We've got a plan for him. Everything's going to be good. And then he played the one game, played it really well, and then, turns out the knee's an issue again. He had to have another knee surgery. I think that's what scared teams away from that was, okay, how many times? I mean, it was like the boy who cried wolf, but the boy who cried my knee is healthy.
But there's going to be scared teams out there, too. They're going to be – if Jaire thinks he's going to get 20-something million to go to another team, he's crazy.
Oh, but yeah, 100%.
Because teams are going to be like, hey, we'll start you – how about an incentive-laden contract? We'll pay you $8 million base with the ability to make it up to 18, but we're not writing you a blank check to play 7 games. I mean, he's –
yeah, there's going to be whatever contract he gets. Yeah, they're going to be per game bonuses, maybe probably all pro, Pro Bowl, things like that.
So Gabe is saying that for the money and the familiarity, he wouldn't be against running it back again with Jaire. What say you? 800-990-3776. I think Chew, you're on the side of it's time to move on. It's run its course.
I just hate the fact that you're because, like we said, if he's healthy, he's a top 5 player on this team.
Sure.
Maybe a top 3. You hate losing. And the thing that's, like I said, going to pain the most if he goes somewhere else, figures it out, fresh start, and does well, that's going to hurt.
And I will say this, there are frustrations that exist sometimes, but hopefully you can overcome them. Obviously, Matt LaFleur going face-to-face with Jaire at the end of last season after everything that went down and saying, hey, man, we need a different version of you. Well, we were talking about the antics, the personality, the behavior, right? Doesn't seem like there was any issue. The only thing that rubbed people the wrong way was that at the end of the season, he chose not to talk and he said some flippant line about how he wouldn't have anything good to say. And people are like, whoa, come on, man.
All right. So what is a guy who goes out for the coin toss as a captain when he's not really a captain? Tool or a douche?
Why don't you tell us? You're the expert on this.
I think you're a douche.
I was leaning towards Tool.
Because he doesn't know?
Yeah. Yeah, because
he doesn't know that he's a tool.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really fit into the whole Tool is a dork and a douche is a narcissist that we talked about earlier in the show.
He's a narcissist. All right, he's a douche.
Okay.
He's a douche. Thank Jen just cleaned it up for us.
I was just telling you, we had set that parameter earlier. We all agreed that we liked that portion
we did have
of it.
rules.
Okay. And there are people who are just tuning in who are going, what the hell is going